If the original plan for my life had worked out the way that it was supposed to, I would have been working twice as hard as I am right now for less than half the pay in a job that left me completely miserable at the end of each day. You see, when I went to college, I thought it was the only way. You either went to college and you spent 40 years working up that corporate ladder, or you spent your life homeless. It was black and white to me, that's all it was, and there was no other way outside of those two options. I always had this feeling somewhere that it wasn't right? That I wasn't made for that system, but because it was black and white, it was either homeless or that, and I obviously chose the other route. Now for me, it was one single book that changed the entire way that I viewed the world and set me up on a trajectory to be a millionaire at 28 and hopefully retire while I still have hair. Now, since reading that book, I've had 5 other major shifts in my life that have made that number possible, and this video is going to go over each of them. Let's dive in. The first thing that I did was I figured out the game of assets, and this was the biggest game changer for me. This is what I learned in that book, and the book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, I read that book in a time in my life when I had very little going for me. In fact, the whole reason I was reading that book was I was hoping I would learn to make money fast. Now, that's not what happened, but it did have some very serious tweaks to the way I thought that have completely changed the way that I've run my entire life. Now, if you're familiar with that book, he tells you to spend your life gaining assets. And what an asset is an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. It's something that makes you money. But either way, assets make you money, and he tells you to obtain assets as soon as humanly possible in life because assets grow and they expand. Let me show you a little bit of math here. So I've talked a few times in a few videos about a real estate project that I got into just a few years ago. The real estate project was in Memphis. It was just one single house that I bought for about $150,000. Now, the way the numbers worked on that piece of real estate is I used a company called DFY Real Estate that set up the entire thing for me. They set up property management, they set up everything, and I was able to put in a lump sum. Now, what's happening is that piece of real estate is paying for itself. It pays itself off every month, and it also puts $300 a month in my pocket. And that's after it pays for property management, it pays for everybody to do all the work so that I don't have to be involved in any way in the actual management of this property. Now, that's all good and great, and in 30 years, that property will probably be worth $250,000 to $300,000, which is great, and I'll own it completely. But let me talk about the exponential side of assets, because what we can do is we can actually take the money that we're making from that asset, right, $300 a month, and then as well as appreciation, and in 3 years, which is about how long it's been since I owned that asset, we can take that money out, right, the money we've made and the appreciation, we can pull that out and we can buy a second asset, okay? We can buy a second house just like the first one with the same numbers running. Then we do the same thing, 3 to 6 years, we pull out all the money we're making from that and we buy a third one. And in 10, 20, 30 years, you can have a real estate portfolio of 10, 15 houses that are all bringing in $300 a month, paying themselves off, and eventually turning into $200,000 to $300,000 assets. And that's all being done on autopilot. You think about it one time a year at tax season when you hand your accountant a piece of paper. Now, that's all fun and good, especially in stocks and real estate. That's all stuff we're somewhat familiar with, but this book specifically showed me that this could apply right now to my career. I was currently focused on finding a job where I could take my time and I could trade that time for money, and I could do that for 40 years and then hopefully retire. But now I changed my focus, and instead of exchanging my time for money for my entire life, I decided to start creating assets in my life that would produce money. And that meant my career as well. My entire career has been built around producing assets that make money. If you look at my YouTube channel, I've got 200 little assets. Each of these little assets is a video, and each of these videos gets views every day. It makes me money from ads, it makes me money from leads. It does all kinds of things for me without me having to be involved because it's an asset. And my blog is the same exact way. My blog is literally the exact same story as real estate, where I put in some money, I built up a blog. My blog now is actually generating enough money to run itself as well as make additional money, and I can take that additional money and start another blog. And again, I can build up assets in my business the same way that I was building assets in my personal life. The next thing is to actually get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I'm doing that right now for you guys in this terrible little chair, but this is something I really struggled with, and my entire life I feel like I've sought after comfort. Everything I've done has been with the goal of getting more comfortable, right? And that's the way a lot of us work. That's the way we are programmed to think a lot of times as people, is we want to seek out comfort, and we make decisions based on what will make us the most comfortable. And I'm telling you right now, that needs to change. I grew exponentially once I started to get better and better at seeking out uncomfortable situations that I knew would have good results. It was about 8 months ago that I was asked to go join a mastermind up in Boise with the ClickFunnels crew, and the mastermind had a lot of people that were well beyond me in their business. We're talking $50 million businesses, $100 million businesses, and not only was I asked to attend, but I was asked to speak on the stage for 10 to 15 minutes about the subject of my choice, and it was optional. They said, you can if you would like, and I was terrified, and I said, I would not like. And in the end, I said, okay, I would like to do it. I got comfortable being uncomfortable. I was terrified to walk onto that stage and teach these people that were so far beyond me in terms of business, something that I was doing in my business. Now, as happens so often in these situations for me, at the end of that mastermind, I had conversations with multiple people who were well beyond me in their business, conversations to promote my product, conversations for me to promote their products, relationships. I met Grant Cardone. I had personal conversations with Russell Brunson. So many good things came because I was willing to get 10 minutes on a stage, as uncomfortable as I've ever been. And that exact same thing happened less than a few months later, I think. I was told by somebody, they said, you should launch a mastermind. And I said, I'm not comfortable in a mastermind. Up till now, I've taught one-to-many. I teach courses and things like that, and I upload them, and then I'm done. But they said, no, you should do these one-on-one masterminds with people and actually coach people one-on-one. And I was terrified of the idea. That wasn't something that appealed to me. I was not comfortable having these one-on-one conversations where I felt like on the spot, I was gonna have to come up with good things to say. I was gonna have to teach things on the spot to people that I may have not been prepared for, questions that I wasn't ready to answer, but we did it. And I'll show you right here. This is just one of we did a survey at the end, and this is just one of the things that came, or one of the comments that came from that survey, and very good results came from that. Very good results came from me personally, not only in growth, but financially as well, of course. And then very good results happened for other people. I was able to share a lot of what I've learned and actually help a lot of other people avoid some of the pitfalls that my business has taken over the last few years. You wanna be a millionaire, you wanna go beyond that, you wanna be a deca-millionaire, 100-millionaire, I guarantee you every single one of those people has figured out how to be uncomfortable, and they're okay with it, and they probably seek out uncomfortable situations. Number 3 is that I look for an opportunity in everything now, and this is a big major change that's happened just in the last few years. I'm gonna say a phrase, and I want you to listen to what I'm saying, and then I want you to finish the phrase in your head. So I'm gonna start it, and you're gonna finish it in your head. And the phrase is, if it's too good to be true, right? And what you said probably is, it usually is, because that's what everyone says. And that's what I used to say. I was probably one of the first people to hear about Bitcoin. I was one of the first Apple iPhone users, one of the first Mac users. I was one of the first people to know about a lot of these, but to me, it was too good to be true. This is great, but everyone else has to already know about that. I can't be one of the first people to know that this is such a cool thing, right? And so I didn't buy any of those things. And that same thing happened when I first had a friend tell me about real estate almost a decade ago. He explained exactly what I just explained to you. He said,
hey, I've got these properties, they pay themselves off, and they pay me every month, and I don't even have to think about them anymore.
I said, there's gotta be a catch, right? There's always a catch. And that's what we think because we've been sucked into so many MLMs in our life where there typically is a catch. But there's not always a catch. There is truly good opportunities out there, as well as a bunch of garbage, but you've gotta look at it from an opportunistic mindset instead of looking at it as this skeptic who always thinks there's a catch and who thinks that nothing is really as good as it seems. Yeah, I found a side hustle last year that honestly blew my mind. I've been in the side hustle game for years. I found this side hustle that seemed just way too good to be true. A guy was making $15,000 a month using just his phone, taking 60-second videos, and it just sounded like one of those bogus claims, right? But I put enough effort into it to see if it was real or not, and it blew up to the tune of $22,000 within 5 months. I was making $22,000 a month profit off of this side hustle. It was crazy. Yes, I'll leave a link down below to that video because I know a lot of people are gonna be interested in that. I wanna show you the comments I got in the description here. They kill me, right? This comment right here, and I get these every day. I get dozens of these. LOL, when a video has to say with proof, you already know it's going to be totally full of crap. Clickbait title, if everyone stopped watching YouTube and would just hustle, yada, 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 right? The people on YouTube talking about ways to make money aren't making that much, or they wouldn't be giving away their secrets on YouTube. This is a mindset problem, the genuine belief that there is no one out there who's actually trying to help and progress people further. Like everyone is out there to get you and take advantage of you. And that obviously oftentimes comes from life experience, but it's a mindset that will kill you. You will never, ever get to that next level, whether it's millionaire, 10x millionaire, whatever it is, you'll never get to that next level if everything is just someone out there trying to get you. The second comment is a very similar idea where they say, you can read right here, they basically take this incredible opportunity and they break it down into all the reasons why it's hard and why they can't do it. You can see right here some good examples. Nice, but nothing is easy about all this. First, you have to have gathered a ton of followers. Guys, I've seen people get into this with 80 followers. So 80 followers is what they're calling a ton of followers. And then listen to this third thing. The reason that they could never do this. This is way too hard for a regular person. You have to take time to search for, select, and buy products. Then you have to wait for them to arrive, make the reviews. All of this takes time, and you can never really be sure if it will work out. How could someone possibly go the distance if this is the kind of way that they're thinking every time a really good opportunity comes in front of them? They pick it apart, find 10 different reasons that it wouldn't work for them, then they exponentially make those reasons seem way worse than they really are, and then voila, this is why I can't succeed in life. Yes, life does sometimes give you lemons, but every once in a while, life gives you chocolate oranges. Oh, that's so good. The next thing I learned was how to make mistakes and then just forget about them. I'm gonna show you something on the screen that honestly is blowing my mind every time I look at it, and probably will blow your mind as well. This is what I call my NFT graveyard. We're probably all familiar with the NFT craze that happened last year. I jumped in that like anybody else, right? I'm an opportunist. And what you're gonna see right here is my graveyard. These are all NFTs that I paid $500 or more for, up to about $2,500 in fact. And not a single one of these NFTs is worth basically anything right now. So you can see right here, that's 26 NFTs. That's probably somewhere in the range of $15,000 to $20,000 worth of NFTs that were just money lost. And the scary part is this is just the low end of what I've lost in crypto. I lost $70,000 in a project just a few months ago. I lost $50,000 in a project a few months before that. Outside of crypto, I invested $30,000 in an Australian hedge fund a few years ago. Lost every penny of that except for about $1,500. I lost $10,000 in Forex in literally 2 minutes. Every penny that I was gonna test out and try the new Forex fad, right? Lost all of that in literal minutes. And the most recent thing I got into Airbnb rental arbitrage. And if you're familiar with that, it's where you go out and you rent a property and then you negotiate with the owner that you're allowed to Airbnb out the property that you're renting. So they get rent, you Airbnb it out, and then hopefully there's a decent difference of a couple $1,000s a month that you can pocket without ever having to put money down and own the house. Now that's sounded great, so me and my friend of mine partnered up. We got a contract locked in place. We completely filled the house with beautiful decor and things like that. That house currently is costing me about $2,000 every month, and it's making me about $500 every month. So I am technically doing arbitrage. I'm just doing it the wrong way. So if you looked at all these mistakes I made, you would think I'm one of the dumbest investors, dumbest businessmen, dumbest humans on the planet. And yet I'm still overall quite profitable, right? I'm where I'm at today because I'm trying all these things and I'm failing in all these things. And I am learning a lesson, I promise, even though it doesn't seem like it, I am learning a lesson from each one of these. But what I don't do is I don't go and say,
there is no opportunities out there. There's nothing real out there. The whole world is a scam. Every way to make money is just a lie out there.
Right? Instead, I learn, I figure out why that particular opportunity wasn't a good one, and I look for that in the next opportunity, but I continue to look for opportunities. I make mistakes and I move on. And that's something that I've come to figure out in just the last few years as well. Number 5 is one that I'm actually still figuring out. I just started to have this mindset shift in the last 6 months to a year. I've been told it a dozen times, but I haven't internalized it. And that's the concept of investing in ourselves. We are an intangible investment. When I invest in a piece of real estate, I've got this physical thing. When I invest in anything in my business, it feels like I've got this physical thing that I know the numbers make sense, things like that. But investing in ourselves feels so scary because we can put $5, $10, $15, $20,000 into something to improve ourselves. And the only way that anything actually happens and works with that investment is if we make it happen. And that can be scary. It's a very intangible reward for what can be a significant amount of money. And I resisted this for a long time. I would buy little cheap courses every once in a while, but I would not invest in myself. I would not invest in people that were further along than me and knew more than me. And I think it was because somewhere deep inside, I felt like that was just gonna put more pressure on me to perform. And then last July, I joined a mastermind that cost, I think it was $17,000 a year. A really expensive mastermind, especially for me who had never put in probably more than $1,000 into something. And I'm here to tell you right now, I 5x'd my money directly from what was talked about in that mastermind. Literally what they told me to do, I went and did and 5x'd my money in 6 months. And it was that investment in myself, it was that hard commitment that made that happen. And I can tell you right now, investing in yourself, there's nothing that will bring a 5x return in the real estate world, the stock world, definitely not the crypto world, but it can happen if you invest in yourself in your world. Guys, it's so funny. We spend thousands of dollars a year feeding and growing our body, and then most of us spend $0 on growing our mind and our spirit, and then we wonder, why are we stuck in life? And this is why. Every single person watching this video can be wealthy someday. It might be a year, it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years away, but change what's happening up here. Keep pushing and make it happen. I'll leave right here. I talked a little bit about that Amazon opportunity that I think is the best opportunity of 2023. I'll leave a link to that if you want to go ahead and start watching the video on that. Thanks so much for watching, guys.